So let's talk about boss Digimon. I wanted to do a retrospective since we are near the end of the year, holiday is coming up, what each set's boss Digimon was, and give a little explanation behind each Digimon. This is a little longer video, but hopefully this is very informative and maybe it might help you think of possibly improving your boss Digimon the next time you think about going into making a deck. So guys, remember, I'll start this video off. Let's dive right in. What an idealism is a boss monster is. Let's talk about that. So a boss monster in most card games, in any card game, is pretty much the end game strat. The strategy that you're going to win the game with, usually the most consistent way. Usually it's this one top end card that really defies the meta. Even if we go back, there's always been a boss Digimon. New evolutions, it was straight up for the longest time. You had a boss in the form of Omnimon. Omnimon was your game finisher. It would control the board and then just swing in multiple times, taking out your opponent. It's always been this OTK kind of strategy to get in those couple extra hits and just clear out board state. So, to be honest with you, BT1's biggest boss monster had to be this Omnimon. It was one of the strongest cards in the format. A really defined format in itself, because outside of that, really it was blue, red, Omnimon, and then a small hint at building into the form of Rookie Rush. So it was really the go-to kind of strategy with BT1, was use Omnimon as your boss Digimon to get to win the game. So there wasn't really much outside of that that would ever contradict. So then we get into BT2, slowly started introducing other stuff. Gallantmon became a boss Digimon in itself because he could win games on its own. So decks started forming around him with Omnimon. Then we had All Force Vidramon as another win con in its own right, because the ability to restand and multi-attack on itself without relying too heavily on Omnimon getting up and turboing into him. So a deck started to lead into level 6 as their strats. So then you get Shine Greymon, for instance, another boss Digimon, but it wasn't like Omnimon because you can't use it in blue and red, as these guys would progress further into knowing what they were doing. So you had red and blue guaranteed to have a level 7 Omnimon as another game finishing stat. So they lowered his count a bit because your Gallantmons and All Force Vidramons really did well, but yellow didn't have this going into it. So they used Shine Greymon as their boss, filling up with a tamer board and being able to clear out board states just because you had enough tamers on the board to just push your opponent. Blacks really didn't get much, and purple got introduced in this set. Didn't have much for the boss end. They had Millenniumon and you could turbo into him, but it was just not strong enough to compete. But you also have Beelzemon that could turbo into Millenniumon, so that allowed purple to at least have some standing leg. Black still failed to have that. Next, let's even talk about it. We have another boss set in this. Ragnar Lordmon became a boss Digimon instantaneously in set 3 because he could come in for cheap, because he would cost 3, but he could also become free. And being able to swing in with an extra security attack and reboot, he was just a very powerful Digimon that just was very detrimental to a lot of players because 14k DP. This also introduced, right around this time, security control started making its ugly appearance. Megazoo was another big boy that started showing up in this format. So, like, Megazoo was a deck prior, but this is when it finally had more momentum. You would use it with Ragnarlord Megazoo. So, just like that. But then they also got Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode as a win con for blue. Blue had a more consistent win. Then you had jamming and unsuspend all your Digimon with jamming. So it allowed multi-attacking with your opponents that they're not really used to, because your Digimon aren't dying by battle anymore. So that shut off half the game's mechanic and this is why Imperial Digimon kind of just took him as a boss mon in itself. So you have to take that into account. Yellow didn't really change from Shine Greymon in BT3. It got Contorismon to add a little extra spice, but outside of that, it didn't really do much. Then Ceresmon came in to really hammer home Green's stability at that point. Ceresmon allowed Digimon to be rested so you can swing in and have a control style deck with Green, and having the ability like Bancho Stingmon and Mega Gargomon as really powerful boss Digimon. This is where it shined the most, and I gotta say, it's really powerful, as you can see, and usually you comboed it with anything else that would Digizorption, and that would put the game in miles ahead. You would start using stuff from BT02 with the Argomon line because Digizorption was introduced in there, and Ceresmon was just taking advantage. You would rest, swing in, take out, control your opponent's board. They just didn't have enough resources to keep up. Black really didn't do much. It had Crescarumon and Craniumon, but they were just a little too slow. Crest really played well with Red, being able to slam down the Jammer Tyrannomon for BT1. So that's what I mean. They usually strats just combo really nice with. Then you had Masterbot and Lilithmon. Lilithmon really made some waves with purple, but BT3 just struggled a little bit on trying to get there. And then you had Alter S. Red really shined well here because being able to de-digivolve with Blitz Greymon and then digivolve right into Alter S would remove big threats on boards if they were level stacked. So it didn't really matter. And then Alter S was able to swing in for games because he was unblockable. And that was huge because everybody was playing enough blockers to justify it. And another really powerful card that helped Green out was the Hidden Potential Discovery. And by the time this set was more and more legal, we saw a hit to this card. So this really put a damper on most strategies. You didn't have Ceresmon at full power, but it was still good enough to handle yellow Shine Greymon very easily. Then let's go into BT4 examples. So red didn't really gain anything in BT4 that made it overly crazy. You had the Victory Greymon, but blue just had Z Greymon, very powerful Digimon, being able to return one of your opponent's level 5 to its owner's hand, being able to just send it back. But yellow really got its strats here with War Greymon. Being able to combo in with, Angel Woolmon from BT03, I think. That card comboing with this allowed you to fill the board wider than your opponent could handle. And that was very much a problem for a lot of decks. So being able to, you may add the top card of security stacks to your hand to unsuspend this Digimon really did help out in the long game. And then being able to slam down a Digimon with Rush, introducing the keyword Rush in this format, being able to slam down 2 of these, that could win games because your opponent might have had enough blockers in normal instance, but yellow War Greymon got rid of 1 blocker, and your opponent really didn't have an out to that. Green got Lilamon and then Nidhogg. Nidhogg is the emphasis of when you think of a boss Digimon that instantly comes into board state, this is the go-to Digimon you think about. This Digimon instantly, when the stack is filled, pretty much suspends all your opponent's level 5000 DP or less, and then places all your opponent's suspended Digimon at the bottom of their owner deck. Being able to remove them off board and put them in a way where your opponent couldn't get to them very easily is huge. Nidhogg is a game-changing boss Digimon in every sense of the word. It gave Green what it's known for now, and that is just board control. So it's really important to know that. And we got introduction into with Commandramons and Darkdramons, Blastermon, plus the trial deck stuff. We also had promos in like OTKs, but in this set we also gained boss Digimon like Chaosmon and Chaos Boulder Arm. Purple got Don Devimon and Plutomon, really great powerful decks in their own rights, but paired to stuff like getting a Lucimon, played for recovery with yellow War Greymon, and just really couldn't handle and keep up, because then you would go into Volder Arm and just wipe out the board. So it really showed that boss Digimon really do make an importance in the deck building. And you could look through many lists and most of the decks either complemented all those versions of the deck. They always did something important to the deck to allow it to grow. And I could bring up promos too. So, like even taking into it, Metal Garurumon, Black War Greymon, and Grand Kawagumon were promo boss Digimon that were huge for this meta. So when BT4 released for us, Security Grand Kawagumon could OTK you, then you would Digivolve, you would Digiburst your whole stack, swing in, then you would Digivolve right on top of your own Digimon, and that Digimon, let me be honest with you, was Chaosmon. Chaosmon could swing with Pierce, giving you a full board clear in your opponent if they didn't have a security to stop him, because we also had jamming with it. So as Imperial Dramon showed up, it showed how powerful the OTK strats were, because if you can give it jamming, that's 2 times you just cleared out stacks and your opponent just really didn't have an answer for it. So, and then Yellow getting Pulsemons to be able to spam out was huge for them. Nothing really made waves here. So Boss Digimon here in the promo category is really those guys. Nothing really happens in this category. They're contingencies to Boss Digimons that help out. Then you have, let's even talk about BT05 for Boss Digimon. Lord Nightmon put an emphasis of this is what the format's going to be like, because being able to slam down Nightmon and then have Slash Angemon go Digivolve on top of this would instantly cause your opponent to lose their Mega they're building up, and that's huge in game states where you are still trying to build up. Most decks were still in the ideal category of I have to build the stack, while Lord Nightmon only needed to build the stack once, and then they could tear down your whole board with very little ease, because all it wanted to do was make sure you board control and build wide. There wasn't, not most decks could not build as wide as Lord Nightmon could, and that's why Lord Nightmon did so well. Green got Rafflesiamon to help out to slow down Lord Nightmon, but Green didn't have enough to keep it at bay. I mean, you did have Nidhogg Rafflesia to help wipe their boards, but that was really the only deck that could almost go toe-to-toe with it. Security Control was still a dominant force in this format. Then we have Hexablow. Hexablow really came in. It needs more support at this point. It could control a lot of other decks if it could remove enough sources, but the problem was that it was too slow against Lord Nightmon at times, and you couldn't give it too much memory or else you were going to fall way too behind, and the second hand with the TKs were just monumental. Then you have Shotmon DX. Shotmon, I really wish it's a really good deck all in all. It needs a champion at the end of the day that has Blitz that you can search with the Shotmon, and once they give that, this deck could probably see one of the top fastest paced decks, because all you need is just getting the right key pieces. But that's just things about it. But Shotmon is another emphasis of a Boss Digimon. It focused around, your deck always focused around this. So you had Shotmon DX, you needed Omni Shout for the extra security, Zeeg to swing into your opponent's Digimon, and then Shoutmon itself to give extra power. Being able to pop blockers were huge, and especially since the more stacks you had, you could also go into BT1 Omnimon and just keep trashing level 6s. So he restand swing, restand swing, restand swings, and it just did a lot of damage in the focal points, because cards that would support it would be anything that gave it extra power or gave it a way of drawing in some sort of shape that it needed. Mechanorimon wasn't really a boss monster. Metal Garurumon is an emphasis of a black boss monster. So black really got some nice support here with being able to handle security control, because if delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost 6 or less, if a Digimon was not deleted by this effect, trash the top cards of your opponent's security stacks. So using that to your advantage, you would use cards that would help benefit its keyword reboot. Even though it had Digiburst, you would use cards that had give the ability with its reboot so that it would be able to swing in and just continue hammering your opponent. But what was really nasty was if you didn't remove a Digimon anyway, you trash damage them, so they would take 2 damage very easily with Metal Garurumon, creating a very niche system because Black had a way of keeping its blockers alive with Craniumon. So they would build up a wall and your opponent would have to deal with it. So Black was really powerful but underlooked in this format. And then you had Black War Growlmon. So Black War Growlmon had his Digiburst ability to help set up for the Chaos Gallantmon. Chaos Gallantmon is another emphasis of a boss Digimon because its support always supported it in a way that it was really good. Even if it was just 3 cards it used of that archetype, it really did put some damage in. And also having the ability access to Omnimon Zawart was nasty. So Chaos Gallantmon could restand itself after trashing a Guillemon, gaining 1 memory after passing into your opponent's turn, because now you kill one of their opponent's Digimons and then you are instantly getting your Digimon back anyway. That could set up for the Black War Growlmon swing, so you could gain 2 memory with 1 Guillemon pop and then go right into Omnimon Zawart to build up another board. And that's how that deck really functioned really well. It's a very powerful deck. It fell a little to the wayside because Lord Nightmon was still one of the best decks because it could fill board extremely well and just didn't care. Tactimon really did well in itself. And, you know, this was also when Rookie Rush kind of took more of a front row seat, because with Security Control, Lord Nightmon, and Rookie Rush being like the go-to meta picks, the rest of the cards just could not keep up at most of the times because they were faster or did enough damage where it set your opponent back every time they swung into something, because Ultimate Flare was really heavily used, so your stacks really couldn't do anything against that. And Spyro Masquerade with a bunch of rookies just cleared out boards, so it was really tough in the format for a lot of decks, because the boss Digimons, surprisingly for Rookie Rush, was Starmon, Lopamons, Cutiemons, anything like that with Spyro Masquerade was huge. And let's even talk about Security Control. They focused heavily on recovery, and they used their boss Digimon was Zawart Defeat with, you know, Magna Dramon from BTO2. So those were their kind of like go-to boss Digimon that really defined their deck, because being able to recover after your opponent has cleared out too many of your security was massive, and your opponent just didn't have a way of recovering out. And let's even go into this format here, BTO 6 that we are in right now. Jesmon is an extremely good boss Digimon. It has an OTK potential that no other deck has at the moment. There are some decks that can do it, but this is a Digimon that can just hide in the back, come up, and then take out a couple securities. Same thing with, let's even going into the Bonds of Friendship, but it's a Rookie Rush style deck with a top-end warp function that helped it out to reach this ability. I mean, Bonds of Bravery even does the same thing at a cost. But with Savior Hawkmon, if you have a Sistermon in play, this Digimon can unsuspend, which is huge, because if you can get 2 ways of getting your opponent's security, getting multiple security checks on this thing, that could mean if you get 3 on this, that's completely wiped out, and then you go right into Omnimon, and then your opponent's just really stuck and struggling. There's not much they can do. And it's really what had happened in this format was Jesmon definitely takes a big lead. Azulamon is a fantastic boss Digimon, but the problem is it's a little too slow for this format because it is a very fast OTK format. You get like Bonds of Friendship, this huge Ancient Troymon just can't handle Security Control. I mean, 3 Musketeers, even looking at them, let's even take a quick gander at them. So the idea behind it is play enough level 7 options that do affect the board state instantly. So Happy Fly Bullets, delete all your opponent's Digimon. You have delete all your opponent's Digimon with Zawat Swarmer. And then you have Fly Bullet that pops a level 6 or lower, which is huge for this format because it allows your opponent, you have so many interesting variables that makes it so that you have popping abilities that you normally wouldn't have. So think about that when you're trying to build Three Musketeers is that you instantly want to have enough of their level 7 options to create a powerful going deck that the 7s really do make the deck, because Bellastar comes in for cheaper. She is the heart and back soul of the deck. She will activate all these 7s for you a second time. Most decks don't have an option, a way of getting most of their options back. So after they used it, it's a one and done deal, and then you can just constantly just hammer in and just go at your opponent. I mean, even Titanmon here, Titanmon is security checked plus, so it's really showing you what the decks can do, because they all center around an archetype. Like Deputymon helps the Three Musketeer deck because it gets to trash an option or adds an option to your hand and a Three Musketeer, helping you filter and get to your combo pieces extremely fast. So it is what it is at this point. Boss Digimon really do make a big difference in this game. Like, even let's go into here, and Imperialdramon gets a boost here, but let's talk about an emphasis of a really powerful boss Digimon here. Machinedramon himself. You may play up to 5 level 5 red or black cards with cyborgs in their trait at different numbers from your hand, and trash with this Digimon's Digivolution to gain 1 memory for each card's place. So he comes in at 7 cost, which is huge because you can't delete him by DP reduction, so that shuts off a lot of security control decks. And then when this Digimon would be deleted, you may trash 2 level 5 cards from this Digivolution, preventing it for 3 times for it to be fully deleted. It requires. That's huge. Being a boss Digimon like that is massive. Diaboromon really gets all your Diaboromon game blocker, being a very solid Diaboromon token producer in security, but it also is a very powerful blocker producer on top of that. So it shows you, like, boss Digimon in general is just huge, and they affect the game state because you're building around them. So this has been a good summary of what the boss monsters have been through the ages of Digimon that we've seen so far, guys. So remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!